Hey everybody, it's Eric Balance coming to you with the Resilient Minds podcast, where I feature beautiful entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and experts in their field, where they help us discover their X factor, their experience of life, only to discover how they were able to accomplish and find out their why factor, their big why, their purpose in life. So join me as we get to discover the beauty of our minds and how can we really continue to go after the biggest and most wildest dreams while we continue to pursue and manifest our greatest intelligence that comes from the heart. Also, if you haven't, go check out the new alignment course that I've created at www.ericbalance.com/alignment, ALIGNMENT. See you on the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Resilient Minds podcast. I'm very grateful today because after many years of not seeing this wonderful man since we were in Amsterdam with Tony Robbins, I want to welcome Roland Frasier to the show. Thank you for being here, my brother. It's good to see you again.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. And so for those of you that don't know Roland, I love this man because there's so much wisdom that comes through him on a regular. And when I met Roland in person, I was just really fascinated by the concept of business and the way that he understands things. And for those that don't know, he's a recovering attorney and co-founder principal of 6 different Inc. magazine fastest growing companies in e-commerce, e-learning, real estate, and SaaS spaces. A serial entrepreneur who's founded, scaled, and sold over 24 different businesses, ranging from consumer products to live events to manufacturing companies, with sales ranging from 3 million to just under 4 billion. Thank you again, man. I'm excited to learn from you today. I'm excited to share your wisdom with the audience. And where are you coming in from, brother?
I am at home in San Diego, California.
Amazing, man. It's and since we've been together in 2000, I think it was 2020. What has shifted since then? Since 2020 in Amsterdam?
I would have been 2019 because 2020 was pandemic. So
yes.
So the pandemic happened. That was interesting and created a lot of challenges when it first came, and then a lot of opportunities arose out of the challenges. And so really just it was kind of amazing to watch the restaurant businesses take a hit, the real estate business take a hit, initially the digital marketing companies to take a hit, and then as people were stuck home, all of the digital things took off. People got to work remote, so real estate took off, did better than it had ever done before, and we pivoted to QVC and online and television sales for our restaurants and takeout, and they ended up doing great. So it's kind of been interesting just to watch all of the different businesses grow. Pivots required, but that's been it's been so mercurial, right? Because you had everything slow down in 20, and then 21 people kind of came back, got tired, adjusted, etc. And then 22 it's like, is it over? Kind of, sort of, but not. And the events companies were very, very hard hit by that, but that's all come back now. So it's just been kind of a continuing adventure of adjustment to a lot of really interesting things going on in the world. I think I feel like between the pandemic and the war in Russia and the economy and interest rates, it's been a very unusually compressed amount of radical change over and over and over the last 3 years.
And do you feel moving forward with all these radical shifts, like what's the most exciting thing that you're seeing uncovering, and how that transfer of wealth is starting to really be implemented through maybe Web 2, Web 3, anything like this that you see as a pattern from the past that maybe is repeating itself?
Oh, and I forgot. And then NFTs crashed also. Yeah, crazy high and crazy crash. No, I mean, for me, it's just we're pretty steady. I'm excited about all the things that I was excited about in 2019 and 2017. You know, we move forward with all the businesses. I really love them. We have a lot of different businesses in our portfolio, and they're growing all the time. We've got strong relationships with lots of people. So it's really just continuing the adventure. Probably the thing that I enjoy the most, of course, is acquiring companies and growing them to sell. And that gets probably the lion's share of my focus outside of our portfolio companies, but it's just all very exciting. I like business, so I'm never bored with it.
So tell me about like why you got into the acquisition side of things, and what really excites you so much about the acquisition side of things for anybody that's really looking to identify, because it's a really unique way of conducting business, and I'm very fascinated by it. I think it's a great way to build scale and really grow long-term longevity or wealth as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I got into it as an outgrowth of real estate when I was 18 and selling real estate, and kind of learned about that it was possible to do no money out of pocket deals on real estate. Through classic. I think the first book I ever read was Robert Allen's Nothing Down book, and I was like, wow, that's pretty fascinating. You can acquire real estate with no money, and then doing that, and then in the early 80s getting taken under the wing of an investment banker in New York and learning about leverage buyouts, which is basically the same thing as no money out of pocket real estate. It's kind of using the assets of the companies to pay for themselves, to pay for their own acquisitions. And I was like, well, that's pretty fascinating. And kind of putting those two things together, I realized that really from a business standpoint, two things. One is that it, to me, never really makes sense to start anything from scratch, because momentum is everything in business. And if you can tap into an existing momentum, then you don't have all of the risk of starting a business, which is pretty high. And you don't have all of the incredible effort that it takes to get a business off the ground and going. So acquiring taps into that. And then the second prong of that is that pretty much any challenge or goal that you're going to face with your existing business can be solved through acquisition. So it's like, if you want more market share, you can acquire your competition. If you want to diversify, you can acquire indirect competition. If you want to get more leads, you acquire media. If you want to acquire infrastructure and people, you acqui-hire and buy companies that already have those resources. If you want to increase your average order value, you buy complementary products and services. If you want to increase your profits, you acquire up and down the supply and distribution chain. If you want to innovate, you acquire intellectual property. Like, all of that stuff is out there to acquire. And so kind of like, it's just faster. I'm always looking at how do we get where we want to go significantly faster, more efficiently. And to me, the acquisition path has proved to be consistently a good answer to that question.
I think it's a beautiful reality that you bring to the table, because most people think that they need to go and start a new business, and there's so many different channels out there that are already existing that can really lead to bringing together, this team of individuals that are way smarter in different fields than you ever are. And by building together, you start to create even more momentum, because everybody's really knowledgeable in their fields. And as a result, you're kind of moving down the highway or down the pathway as one. And it's interesting, as I get older and as I start to like learn and understand this concept, I'm fascinated by, hey, like, there's been great businesses that have been built, and maybe they just need some new energy, right? Maybe they just want some younger guys or some new identity, and bringing in this level of service and focusing on people's legacy that have been cultivated over years to come we keep moving that forward with excitement, with grace, with the service, and then building on each other's wisdom by using maybe new tech, new marketing, new SaaS products, new e-learning, things like this, but then still focusing on the end user. And I think that this is like, you know, like a guy like myself, so hungry about wanting to grow, right? And then you see, wait, like it doesn't need to be, I don't need to figure it all out by myself. It's like Tony says, reasons come first, answers come later, right? And so as a result, you're just like focused on, wow, you get to create all of this and you don't have to do it all by yourself. You just need to find the right people, and the right people will make it happen with you. Let me know what you feel like about this.
Yeah, 100%. That is it exactly. It's kind of like the dog pound, right, method. It's, you can go and get a brand new creature from somebody that breeds those creatures, but there's all these other creatures that are already out there that are wonderful, and if they don't get care, things that are not great are going to happen to them. And so, like, that's actually kind of the case with businesses too. If you can adopt a business by acquiring it as opposed to starting a new one, you're really helping a lot of other people out as well. The existing employees, the existing customers, the owners, all those people have their goals. And, if you look at the stats of about 600,000 businesses a year in the United States alone shutting down, just closing their doors every year, and you look at the stats of the 80 to 90% of businesses that get listed for sale not selling, there's this huge pool of orphan businesses out there that nobody wants, that we really help solve problems for when we go in and acquire. And it's good for us too. That's what I like about it. It's there's no predatoriness here. There's no losers. It's only winners, because there's a lot of people who want to sell their businesses who are unable to do that. And so if we're able to come in and get work with them to get them what they want and get good terms for ourselves, it's hard to find a loser in that.
And that's beautiful, like identifying how there's a win-win situation, keeping the culture going, maybe even making it better with this different type of energy, so that culture continues to manifest, where people are empowered to continue to follow their vision. They're empowered to cultivate, this awareness of what the mission of the organization is. And then the founders are excited because they get to work alongside other individuals that are also at the same level of principle and values.
Yep.
I think I think this is it needs to be taught more. It needs to be identified more. It needs to be more of an awareness in common societal expectations, because I perceive, like, in the past, I would perceive this as like a separation or like a competition, when in fact it's really not. It's like really seeing everything in abundance, in, hey, like, we get to create together. So how did you, as going into this, like, if somebody is listening to us right now, Roland, tell us, like, leverage buyouts, utilizing these assets, getting into the real estate type of things. If somebody is wanting to know more about leverage buyouts, and I know that you don't need to go in depth into it, but like, what does that really mean for an individual that is curious to know how an acquisition is able to support them to get into kind of their area of their dream business or their dream goals in business?
Sure. So leverage buyout's a very specific way to acquire a company. It's where you find a company that has assets that have equity in them, or that are currently undervalued, or that are worth more ultimately to sell than to keep. And you go in and you use those assets to get debt, and the debt finances the acquisition. So that's one way of about 225 that we have of acquiring businesses without having to use your own cash. And it's not, to me, one of my favorite ways, because it is heavy on debt. And so then the company, once it comes out of the leverage buyout, and the people that acquired it are really stuck with some pretty high debt service, and that can be dangerous if there's not success in increasing the profitability of the company. Things that I like a lot more that are actually significantly simpler would be seller financing. So sellers who want to sell their business and find that they can't are motivated sellers. They're a motivated seller because they've actually tried to sell, and they're among the 80 to 90% that find that they cannot. And so that means that if they want to transition ownership of their business, then they need to be a little bit more flexible, either on the price or on the terms or both. And so those are really prime candidates for the types of deals that we like to do. And, you know, those are people that, like I said, tried to sell the business, but can't, people that have shiny object syndrome, that are just want to get rid of the business to do the next thing, people that have gone through divorce, that have health problems, that want to relocate, that have challenges with partners, that have other opportunities that produce more money. There's a lot of times that we find they're serial entrepreneurs and they've got 3 or 4 businesses going on at one time, and one of them is profitable, but it's just not as profitable or as interesting to them as the other things. And so they're just trying to get rid of that. And all of those opportunities create motivated sellers. And so then when you're dealing with those sellers, it's simply a conversation of, well, what do you want for the business? And if you can agree on what a reasonable price is, but they haven't been able to find a buyer for it, then very, very, very often those people are willing to carry the paper or finance the debt on doing that at very favorable, you know, on a very favorable basis. So, so that's like, I like that way more than leverage buyouts, because there's the way that the debt comes about is way more favorable to the buyer than in institutional funding through, you know, mezzanine debt and things like that. So that, and then an earnout where you're saying, hey, look, I know that you want this much for the business and I want to give it to you. It's just that if we make this change, there's a chance that just the fact that we're making the change could cause things to go down, or maybe there's things I don't know about. So let's, for somewhere between 10 and 40% of the purchase price, agree that as long as after 1 to 4 years, the business is continuing to do about the same as it was before, then I'll pay you that extra 10 to 40%. And so that combination of seller finance and earnout is really a powerful one too, and presents a much, much more favorable buying opportunity than trying to go out and do institutional debt.
I love it. I'm learning so much because we're currently in we're trying to figure out an acquisition model with regards to a SaaS company that is really has been around since 2011, and the owner or the founder was really utilizing this SaaS. It's like a marketing tech platform. Was utilizing it for a number of years, and then now he switched his gears, kind of like you just said, and was like not as motivated, hasn't been pushing. It's still cash flow positive, hasn't been like really in the flow. And so now he's like, okay, well, I don't want to sell it all. I'm willing to kind of go in through a 50% partnership with you and then kind of transition. How would you approach, and if you don't mind me asking you, I'd love to know, how would you approach this type of situation? So like the EBITDA on it was like a 11.9 times the EBITDA is what the evaluation came out to be, and it 2.3x the revenue. And so, you know, we had our CFO Nolan really look at the numbers and really spend time to identify like what's really powerful in the market. And so basically, you know, we got to a number where he's really happy at 2 million for 50% of the organization. So the valuation is about 4 million. And so now we're looking at really identifying with partners and seeing how we can acquire this business at a way that everybody is happy, is that everybody is excited, everybody is motivated, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first thing is that that valuation seems high. So even if we say a valuation of, let's call it 11 times, a valuation of 11 times is standard, that's a valuation for an acquisition of 100% of the company, which includes a control premium. So the fact that you're not acquiring a controlling interest and you're not acquiring all of the company typically results in somewhere between a 20 and 40% discount off of what a normal valuation would be. So buying 50% of a $4 million company versus buying all of a $4 million company, those are two completely different things. So you might expect that you would pay, because you're acquiring effectively a $2 million interest if it's a $4 million valuation. So you might expect that if the market valuation was 4, which I don't ever want to pay market anyway, but if the market valuation was 4 and you're only acquiring half of the company, 2 million, then you would expect somewhere around a 20 to 40% discount on that. So I'd be looking at a 20% of 2 million would be 400,000. 40 would be 800,000. So I'd be looking to buy it for about $1 million to $1.2 million if I was going to pay that. But I would also have a conversation about what's going to happen with the company. So what's that person going to do with their 50%? What are they going to continue to add to it? If it's not a lot and you're really coming in, bringing the operations, then I would argue that it's better as a consulting for equity deal where you say, look, you're not doing anything with this anyway. You're having a hard time selling it, or you would have already sold it. And so why don't you let us come in and we'll, for 50% of the company, we'll take over and we'll grow it. And that could be a all vested when you come in opportunity, which is the one that I like the best, or it could be we'll take a percentage of increase as we have success with the company. And then at some point, our full 50% interest will vest when we hit these milestones, which could be time-based or KPI based or both. And that's a very, very common way that I use to acquire interest in companies when it's an operating existing company and we're going to come in and add value. But so that's the very first thing. Then I would say, once we work out whatever that valuation issue is, it's, well, how do we pay that? Well, I don't want to pay it cash. I want it to be seller financed. And so if the company is profitable, which you said it is, right, then my 50%, ideally, my 50% of the profits of the company would cover the debt on the property and I'd finance it that way. So the seller's getting a sale and they are getting that money, plus you're coming in to do whatever you're going to do, but you're not having to come out of pocket. And then a portion of that might, like I said, I generally try to structure a portion of that as an earnout too. So you might say, well, he says it's worth 4 and you say, or he says your 50% interest is worth 2 and you say it's worth, 1 and you agree on 1.2. And so you have 1 million is financed over 10 years, $100,000 a year. And the other 200,000 is an earnout based on certain KPIs that the company hits, so that's kind of how I typically go in to those deals. And then, beyond that, look at all the other assets and see what can happen if that's not something that works. But that's, to me, a great starting point.
Wow, beautiful advice, man. Like a lot of value there, especially with the coming in with as an operation team. I think that there's a huge value in, being willing to take on the operations, stepping into that role of saying, hey, like we'll really put all the energy on our shoulders, give all the value and really exchange that level of interest for that. That's a different perspective. I never looked at it this way. This is really beautiful. So thank you for this, bro.
Yeah. And it's not uncommon. I mean, if you look at typically out there, when someone comes in that's just a CEO or just a high-level C person, they're going to receive equity in the company as part of their comp package. So when you're coming in to do something and you're coming in to, to have a dramatic impact on the company, it's very, very reasonable to have that be for an equity interest.
What do you see for SaaS moving forward with acquisitions and SaaS in regards to marketing tech, virtual marketing departments, things that, CRMs, cybersecurity, blockchain? What do you see moving forward with regards to, acquiring these types of businesses and how they could be a really sustainable in really helping to build, scale, and amplify, physical businesses. So both, I guess, really online and brick and mortar. So really, these virtual marketing departments, these SaaS organizations, these SaaS companies, these cybersecurities, how they can amplify and come in to any really organization and really help scale it. What do you see? I'm curious to know with these types of businesses.
Well, I mean, I think that generally as a business model, SaaS is very, very solid. I think the valuations have come down dramatically from the crazy frothy levels that they were at even a year ago, and certainly 2 years ago. And as a acquisition to support existing businesses, I think that they're great because they provide automation, they provide efficiency, and they provide the potential for a recurring revenue model to the extent that they can be outward facing as well as internal. So almost all the businesses we have SaaS components to that. So you could call that tech enablement if it's inside, because that technology enables us to do whatever it is we do in our existing businesses faster and better. Or it can be simply revenue opportunities because it's also outward facing and we're not just using it internally, we actually offer it to the public. So I think it's really cool. And I think that you can use the existing physical businesses or non-SaaS related businesses that you've got to help fund acquisitions of SaaS that then increase profitability. So, it's goodness all around.
Wow. So many things just popping into my head about the importance, especially as we are, navigating into a new Web3 version of, the online world. How do you see it benefiting us with Web3? And do you feel like it's kind of a role, especially since the pandemic, of most businesses taking on more of these SaaS products and really making it easy for them to sustain their operations, to streamline their services, to amplify their messages to the marketplace?
I think that what you'll really see is a democratization of access to software at dramatically lower prices. Because I think what we had seen over the last couple of decades is this class of people that are coders or that are able to assemble and supervise coders who really had this huge advantage over everyone else because they were automating. The markets loved funding them. It was complex. Lots of people tried and failed. And that what you're getting now is first with no code, and now with software that's able to program itself, like you can with ChatGPT and some other AI. That kind of two-class distinction is going to be radically changed, and that so many more people will have access to software and the ability to code by basically speaking what they want to have happen in the code being created, that the market's going to change, the pricing is going to come down. And while software will continue to eat the world, I think that the kind of hyper valuation model of valuing it based on a multiple of revenue, I believe those days are either over or about to be over. I know that in looking at valuations for software companies, it used to be, we're really looking at ARR, annual recurring revenue. It's going to be a high multiple of that. I had a friend that basically got a partial exit and a huge round of funding at around a 26 times revenue. Think about that. It's 26 times the revenue of the company. Let's say that the company was operating at a 25% margin. It's probably higher than that, but let's say it was operating at a 50% margin. That means it's 52 years for those people to break even. Now, obviously they're assuming no growth, and they're thinking it's going to grow, but daggone, I mean, that's kind of crazy. And so now I've watched as it's no longer acceptable to have no profit and high ARR, and the valuations even on the ARRs are way, 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 way down. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I really do think no code and AI are going to have dramatic impacts as they come more and more into the mainstream.
With AI, do you think, what do you see are the greatest benefits utilizing AI with marketing and with sales, with SaaS specifically? Because AI marketing, I think, is a huge part of our acquisition model. And I think that, within being in SaaS, you're probably very similar to understanding, hey, how important, AI has allowed us to amplify, like a creator, right? Like you said, a creative just gets to say what they want, and all of a sudden it happens. So how important is this going to be for people that really are, I don't want to say illiterate, but I want to say, like, hey, they don't understand how that concept works, but yet they could still make it happen?
I think it's hugely important. I look at just the speed. We wrote a 360-day email calendar in about 4 hours for one of our businesses. We created 127 courses in the workplace safety space in about a week. I mean, it's like the time that it would take to do all of that stuff before was it was just so much more, so much longer, so much more intense. And now you can create really, really great things at will, at speed, and that is, that changes everything. So we use it for everything from email sequences to video scripts to course descriptions to fulfillment, sales pages, landers. It's pretty, and certainly all kinds of copy. It's just so much faster. So I look at it as a ridiculously smart a bank of assistants that you can assign tasks to, and because there are so many people working on it, it gets done instantly. That's really what AI is, and it's only getting better. So it's something that's a huge part of everything we're doing. You're seeing it being implemented in across all businesses. I think that it'll stop being AI at some point soon and just be called software. But it's going to just, like right now we have a lot of AI applications, but you can already see that AI is being brought into Bing and Microsoft and Adobe and Notion and all the other companies. So I think at some point in the very near future, it's not separate AI companies anymore. It's just the companies that are building the infrastructure that all the other companies are building into their software.
When you talk about the infrastructure, can you elaborate for anybody that is uncertain about what that means, especially for new businesses wanting to take on more of a SaaS perspective or AI perspective, like these traditional businesses wanting to step into the infrastructure of tech and innovation?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, at first, I think you stick with what you're good at. I mean, if you're selling hamburgers, to go into AI systems for the creation of hamburgers might not be the best thing. That's not really your core competency. But I think that an awareness of tech enablement is always smart, and that just like businesses, if you look at a hardware store, and a hardware store in the past kept all their books on paper and kept their inventory in paper inventory logs. And then as accounting systems came, that's not their core competency, but they got QuickBooks probably into their accounting system. And so now they're enabled there. And then they had maybe a 3PL company that handles their shipping and all of that stuff, that coordinated with some software that integrates with QuickBooks to do that, and then their inventory systems and all that. Well, now their point of sale, their accounting, their inventory, their shipping is all tech enabled, but they're not involved in any of that tech creation. They could choose to be if they wanted, but that's a different business. So the infrastructure of their business from a software standpoint is all of the systems that help that stuff go. So whether they look at how can they take AI applications that exist out there and enhance that existing tech infrastructure that they've got, or they wait for the companies that they're already using to integrate AI into that tech infrastructure, that's either going to happen naturally as the existing tech infrastructure companies get AI enabled, or they're going to go out and look for it themselves for separate applications. And that's really what I'm talking about. The infrastructure is like, you're not changing the fact that your core business model is to acquire hardware from manufacturers and sell it to the retail public, right? That doesn't change, but all of the how does that happen, from how do customers happen through marketing and management of your CRM to everything else, that's going to be changing dramatically. So I don't know that I think it would be terribly smart for companies to say, I'm going to pivot into being a tech company. But I think that the fact that custom solutions will be easier to create because AI is becoming more and more available to the average person, or modifications or plugins or APIs to existing software solutions that can be customized to specific use cases, that to me is definitely an opportunity.
I love it. And this is why, like, having operating systems that are easily amplified inside of these businesses, where, like you said, the CRM, the marketing tools, they can be easily systematized and scaled for automation. It allows us all to really like follow our dream, focus on our vertical.
Yep.
And really create that life by design that each individual really wants to go out and attain, or has attained, and just needs to amplify it through simple tools that, infrastructure that we've built or that somebody else has built, or, and continue to scale that way. How does that, resonate?
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Bro, it's such a breath of fresh air listening to this wisdom, man. Like it's like sometimes you read things, and then when you hear it come out of like a man that has done it over and over and over again, it just makes it like settle, where you're understanding it at a way deeper level. And I'm certain that anybody that's listening, it resonates deeply with. And this is what you've been doing for how long now, Roland?
I've been doing this, if we're let's see, that would be about 41 years.
So like a master, a master in the space. I'm grateful to be able to learn and listen to a man like you, and that has done so much by advising major brands and really spending time. So can you take us through maybe some sort of a use case scenario? You don't have to talk about the specific business, but something that maybe like it really required you to have that resilience and that solution-oriented perspective of helping the people around the table, help them see how important it is to really come together and find a solution so that the business can continue to thrive and really enhance by, and doing it obviously with intention, with attention, with ethics, with moral, with value, with principle, which is something that you've been doing for 41 years. And so I think that this is what sets men and women like you of like high moral standards and that great compass, internal compass, apart from those that aren't around anymore, those that don't succeed in business. And so I think that above all, yes, you're brilliant. Yes, you've done a lot of great things, but most importantly is your principles, your values, what you've allowed yourself to step into. And as a result, you've been able to spread that through the people you've advised, the brands you've worked with, and the scenarios you've kind of gone through. So, and this comes from probably going through a lot of problems and finding solutions, right? And so that continuous cycle, right? So I'm just curious to know, because these is something that I don't think a lot of people understand, that how important adversity is by helping you really step into that level of influence and leadership?
Yeah, it's hard to think of examples that I can talk about, but I mean, it's I'll tell you one very common scenario that I run into is that the businesses I work with, because I do a lot of we talked about consulting for equity earlier, and that's one of my favorite ways to come into a business. But a lot of the businesses that I work with have really not taken the time to fully flesh out their value ladder. And so I know there was one software company that I was working with. It was a real estate SaaS, and their offer was in the well, their average order value was about $29. They had a couple of different subscriptions that they offered, and it just wasn't enough to provide for it wasn't enough to provide for a profit level that they wanted to have. And so they were doing about $3 million in revenue and losing about $1 million a year. And they had done well in that they had tried several different things. They'd tried upsells to annual programs. They'd tried affiliate sales, and they still had those things, but it still wasn't enough. And so really going in and kind of taking a look at what they had and saying, well, where is the top cap? So if we think of a ladder, the very top rung of a ladder is the top cap. And so they had the low part, but they didn't really have, and they had a little bit of middle, but they didn't have that high ticket thing. And so what we realized was there was another product that all of their people needed that was being purchased around the same time that people were purchasing their product. And so it was basically a phone call to a strategic partner and working out an arrangement where, without having to start a new business, they could effectively bolt onto the value ladder that they had a top cap that provided the thing that all these people were buying at scale, and that instantly changed the equation for them. So we looked at we projected out the take rate and everything, and basically took the business from losing $1 million at $3 million to, on that same level of customers with no increased marketing spend, coming out with $1 million profit. So that's a $2 million swing, right? Pretty significant. And that's not atypical at all. There's very, very often that companies don't have that value ladder thing together. There's another company that we're working with actually right now that did an acquisition, and they effectively acquired the middle of the value ladder, but not the front end. So they didn't acquire the part that was generating the media, or excuse me, that was generating the leads. They didn't acquire the lead magnet parts of the business. They acquired the operational component, but they realized a few years in that they lost all of the lead flow because they didn't have the front end of the business. And they also didn't acquire the top cap part of the business. They didn't acquire the high end part of the business either. They were focused, their whole business model was focusing on that middle component. And so then having that conversation with them and saying, look, if you really want to grow the middle component super fast, you got to have the front end. And if you really want to profit the most, you got to have the top cap. And so we really need to put those three things together. And so I look at, when I come in to new companies to work with, what is the value ladder currently, and how does it segment into those three things, from lead flow acquisition as the low end, to which is media, to the operational core product, to the profit maximizer high ticket top cap of the value ladder. And like that alone is just something that a lot of people don't think about. And that's one of the easier things to do, but very, very important to focus on, because a lot of the low-hanging fruit lies in those kinds of things.
This value, and a lot of people don't even know like they don't think of how important it is to have those three different offers, like that three different parts of the value chain or the value ladder.
Yep.
You know, like how can you educate, entertain, empower the front end of your audience or prospective buyers, or completely unaware individuals, to then really supporting them at that component where you're able to have that profitability at the back end. And it's interesting because what you bring up, I really feel like a lot of people may be uncertain that, hey, that actually exists inside of businesses. That when you have more of these offers, right? When you're able to navigate more of these offers at a very, front-end capacity to a high ticket, you're able to then attract even more people from different stages of prospect levels of awareness, that take them from completely unaware to like super loyal clients.
Yep,
And
exactly.
this gives them then that market share that allows them to stand out from other individuals, especially when they're sharing from like an authentic space, a unique value proposition, their own mission statement, things that are meaningful to them. And so this is something that I really stress so much upon, because we all know we're different. Some people, especially myself, as I grew, I thought I was just like some guy, like I didn't know my uniqueness. And I think as we grow, for myself especially, you find out your unique kind of flavor that you add to the world by just being yourself. And people don't know how to be themselves. And so I think it's beautiful that you bring this up, because in business, you get to amplify who you are at a source level through your business. The business becomes the vehicle of who you already are, and you can do that within these value offers.
Exactly.
So broski, I want to just go back to you and the e-learning, the e-commerce. What is e-learning for you, and how do you see that being an important role for our future generation, and how we get to kind of leave this place, this world, the art of business behind better than when we found it?
Well, I mean, the model of going to a physical classroom to learn through traditional education methods has, I think, proven to be at least incapable of working for the bulk of the population, because different people learn different ways. The traditional education is to have the material in a book that you are instructed to read chapter by chapter, and then the professor gets in front of you, or teacher, and regurgitates that to you, and then you regurgitate the regurgitation back, and that's kind of and then it's this memorization of facts that you'll probably never use again in your life. I think that making learning available to everyone everywhere, and we saw this a lot during the pandemic, is really just such a huge increase in the number of people that you can impact with what you're teaching, and a huge increase in the audience that can receive the information that you've got. So when you look at all the things that aren't taught in traditional education, that like how to balance a checkbook, how to make money, how to be in business, how to be an entrepreneur, how to market, how to sell, how to close, all of those things are so important, but missing from most educational curricula. So when you look at companies like Masterclass that are taking the people who have made it the most, when you can take your film class from Martin Scorsese and you can take your cooking class from Gordon Ramsay, that's just not possible. There's not the scale to do that in a traditional environment. So the fact that we've got all of that available, and that YouTube is the second largest search engine because it's a place where you can go and find how to do whatever you want to do with competent, hopefully, usually instructors, or there are paid courses like Masterclass or monthly or things like that, where you can actually get proven experts to teach you. It's just such a wonderful evolution of education that didn't exist 30, 40 years ago. And it wasn't when I was being educated, it didn't exist at all, right? And you had books, and that was the mass way to educate. So really, to me, e-learning is just an evolution of publishing, and publishing has certainly been something that's helped us all. I think the fact that when the printing press happened and we were able to have books at scale, that changed the game. So many more people were able to be educated. When we're able to do it online in bits and bytes, it increases even more. And now, because the educators don't have to go through gatekeeper publishers and anyone can be a publisher, that's just so amazing. All the creators that are out there now, we're in that creator economy, and anyone can be a creator, and anyone can find them and consume them. And that's not going to change. That's just going to continue. So I think it's a huge market that is always worth, if you have something to say, going out and getting into.
I love it. And that's what we're here for, is to like help our future our children, or future, children's children, really allow them and hold the space for them to express themselves without limits, and I see you have, a piano behind you. I see there's a beautiful painting, and this is art, like we all are artists. I really believe in this wholeheartedly. We're artists at our deepest level. And so we get to paint the picture of our lives, and by following our dream.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell us about the do you play?
I do. Yes, absolutely.
I love it. And what's your favorite composition or composer?
Oh, I don't think I could possibly choose one of those. And I'm an equal opportunity music lover, so I like everything from EDM to jazz to you name it.
Brother, honestly, it's been such a pleasure. I'm really grateful for your time, your energy, your wisdom. I have a final question. Actually, first, if anybody wants to know more about you, how can they find out more information, what you're up to, how to connect with you, what's all the amazing things happening, where can they find you, brother? Sorry.
So I'm everywhere online at /Roland Frasier, ROLAND FRASIER. So that's, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. I'd say TikTok. I'd say YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram are probably the channels I'm most present on directly, because I respond to all my DMs on those. But also I have a podcast called Business Lunch, where we interview smart, successful folks. And there's a lot of stuff there as well. And then my primary website, I have a website at rolandfrasier.com, but also the thing that I'm most passionate about right now is at epicnetwork.com. That's where we have all of our business acquisition, growth, and exit stuff.
And please, go check out this brilliant man and all the work he's done. He's had some major players on his podcast, some major things happening in his life. And, we're very blessed to have you here today and sharing your incredible knowledge, man. Last question before we go, if you had 3 days left to live, what would you do?
Oh gosh, if I had 3 days left to live, I'd probably hang out with my family and just do something that we all enjoy. So it's, if I have anything left on my bucket list, I'd be knocking it off during that time, and I'd be taking them with me.
Amazing. Again, brother, anything else that you want to just add? Any final state? Anything you want to share?
No, man. Everything is. I just think that anything that you want to do is achievable with focus, mentorship, masterminding, and a model that works. So if you've got the model and you've got a good mentor and you get with a good community of people to mastermind, I think you can accomplish pretty much anything.
I agree with that statement so much. I'm so grateful to have you in my life, my friend.
Thank you for having me here.
Big love. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Hey everyone, and thank you so much for listening to the Resilient Minds. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please make sure to go comment and like and follow us on iTunes or Spotify, and please make sure that if you really love this, to share this episode, and make sure that you're inviting all your friends to like it as we continue to unfold what the beauty of our minds does. More importantly, how powerful our heart level of intelligence can be when we combine our heart and our brain together. And more importantly, check out the alignment course that I've created. It's seriously there for you to take advantage of at www.ericbalance.com/alignment. See you on the next show.